That is Zack Guggenheim here with me once again as we are talking through the AP Top 25 that just came out, presented and brought to you by FanDuel. And then I'm also going to give my way too early Top 25. I guess it's not too early because we had other people releasing these like before the national championship game yesterday. So maybe I'm
it's early.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, it's definitely at least early.
But not as early as others.
For me, it's way too early because I couldn't make one. I missed the deadline. So we're just gonna talk about how you have the pristine version of this poll.
I thought you were going to talk about how we're all going to look at my poll and laugh and, say, oh my gosh, why did John, rank this guy there and that team there and everything.
Listen, we can't do that when On Threes already has so many issues.
Yeah.
Although you work for On3, so...
Well, they didn't ask my opinion for that one. They should have. I would have given it to them and said, hey, put Indiana number 1. Anyway. All right, we got a lot to get to in this episode. Let's see who we got here in the chat with us. Max here with us says, good evening, everyone. What a magical season. Would be interested in seeing how preseason predictions matched up against actual results and who had the better picks on the Big Ten Huddle. Yes, Jeff mentioned something about that on the other day, and I think that me and Jeff and Zach are going to try to get together at some point to at least do a video, maybe an episode or something like that together. Where we just kind of look at our picks from last year and see how that worked out. I am not excited to look at my national championship pick because I remember what it was and it was not good. Do you remember what I put?
You had Penn State and Clemson.
Yes.
I had Penn State winning, I think, over Ohio State.
Yeah.
Woohoo. We did great on that one.
Yeah.
I had Indiana going, I think, 9-3. Indiana was 9-3, not making the playoffs. Yeah, that was a Signetti doubter. That was dumb.
Yeah. Yep. Max also says that Vanderbilt, bring it up here. Vanderbilt over Iowa, disrespectful to Iowa. Yeah, and it's a whole lot more disrespectful if you look into it even more. We'll do that when we get there. Philip with the INI there, Philip. At least the coaches got Illinois ranked. Yeah, Illinois. Well, they were 2 points away from being ranked behind TCU. Sucks. So, Max says, JR, did you go to Kirkwood Street last night after the win? The photos look nuts. No, I just worked on the podcast all last night. So I don't get to go out and do as many fun things with the podcast, but I get to hang out with you guys and I like doing that. So it works out. So, but yeah, I did see the photos. They look nuts down there. All right. You ready to get into the sec?
I did not look at the coaches poll until just now. Are the coaches out of their mind with Georgia?
Where they put Georgia? I didn't see that.
They put Georgia 5th over Ohio State. What has Georgia done? They're mid, and it's actually going to be my launching point in the AP poll. So just forget that. Anyway,
here's the AP poll for Zach's.
Georgia's mid. That's my frustration.
All right. Let me deliver the poll to the podcasters if they've not heard it yet. So if you're listening on podcast, if you're on YouTube, you see the graphic next to me. If you're listening on podcast, I will list it out for you very fast. At number 1, you have Indiana, followed by Miami, Ole Miss, Oregon, Ohio State at 5, Georgia, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, Alabama, Notre Dame at 10, followed by BYU, Texas, Oklahoma, Utah, Vanderbilt at number 15. Notice how I haven't said Iowa yet. Virginia, Iowa, Tulane, James Madison, USC at number 20, followed by Michigan, Houston, Navy, North Texas, and TCU. Rounding it out, TCU barely makes it, just 2 points ahead of Illinois. Illinois and Washington were your first 2 teams that did not your first 2 Big Ten teams, your first 2 teams in all of college football that were right on the outside looking in of the top 25 here. Illinois just 2 points away from passing TCU up there. If you look at the conference count, the SEC had 7, followed by the Big Ten with 6, Big 12 with 5. The American, yes, the G5 conference had 3. The ACC had 2. Holy cow. And the Independents had 1, and the Sun Belt had 1. as well. So, Zach, all that information, where would you like to start looking at this AP Top 25 and picking it apart?
Ole Miss is a great story. There's no way at all that they are the number 3 team.
Yeah.
That you cannot put them above Oregon. Like
They
can
did
see
it all year. They did it all year.
Oh, I know. And it's absurd.
Yeah.
Listen, I get that you want to penalize Oregon for getting blown out against Indiana. I understand that. Oregon lost to one team twice. They're the national champions. They beat Texas Tech, your number 7 team, by 23 points. Oregon beat USC. Oregon beat Iowa. What did Ole Miss do? They beat a mid-Georgia team who's overrated because they beat a bad Alabama team who's overrated. Just all of this. We cannot escape SEC bias, despite the fact that the Big Ten has won 3 straight national championships. Like it goes to Vandy, Vandy over Iowa. These pollsters, do they not pay attention?
You still had 2 pollsters voting Missouri in, I think it was.
They need to. I know that they reveal these polls, but they need to like plaster them and then have like the worst 10 pollsters like banned from the poll for at least 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, like the top 25 here doesn't really matter that much. Honestly, it's the end of the season. We all know who the national championship is.
Wait, no. Let me be upset about this. Let me be upset about this.
I'm not saying you can't be upset. I'm not saying you can't be upset. There's a but. So it doesn't really matter all that much. But I do think it's very interesting to see where the perception is of a lot of people, especially with the Big Ten showing that they are no doubt the best conference in all of college football, and to see if the Big Ten teams get that respect. I understand the AP poll is going to put the 4 teams that were in the top 4 in the top 4. I don't agree with it, but it is what it is. It's what they're going to do. I don't understand only moving Oregon up 1 spot when they shut out a Texas Tech team, right? Like you shut out a Texas Tech team and beat them really well. And then Ole Miss, yes, they almost beat Miami, but I mean, do we really think that Ole Miss was going to give any type of game to Indiana or anything like that? I don't think so. But at the end of the day, Oregon can't get blown out like that. I get it. It is what it is. So as far as like the top 10 goes, I really don't have all that much for it. It is what it is. I don't like it, but whatever. It's fine.
I'm going to, one of our listeners, I'm just going to put this up. OSU got exposed, barely a top 10 team, Chuck Cribbs. And then he follows it up with Texas Tech has no offense. I'm just going to push back because this is what pollsters do all the time to marginalize Big Ten teams and then elevate SEC teams. Okay. Like, so OSU is overrated or got exposed, barely a top 10 team. They lost to the national champions by 3 and had a chance to beat the national runners up. And they were exposed. They're barely a top 10 team based on what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, is Georgia better? I mean, no offense. Georgia was mid. Texas Tech, you're right. Texas Tech has no offense. That defense was still nasty, and Oregon beat them by 3 scores. Okay? I think Ohio State's appropriately rated, by the way. I actually don't have a problem with Ole Miss being in the top 4 because they were in the semis. No problem with that. I just have an issue with Oregon. But when people come in there and say, well, OSU was exposed. Okay, facts, people. Like, who did Ohio State lose to? They lost to 2 teams by the national champs and the national runners up by a combined 13 points. That's not being exposed. they were really good. They just weren't the best team or the second best team in the country. Right?
Mhm.
I don't love this thing. I'm going to take a quick break because my dog's about to go crazy. So
All right. Yeah, I don't have any problem with Ohio State at 5. It is what it is. I mean, do I think they're a better team than Oregon? I do think they are, but at the end of the day, like they didn't show it. You know, if you don't want that to happen, go beat Miami. So it is what it is. So as far as everything else goes, like to me, the most egregious stuff on here is Vanderbilt above Iowa, and probably the most
it's
egregious thing
ridiculous.
about this is that Iowa beat Vanderbilt. Whoops, sorry. Iowa beat Vanderbilt, and then Vanderbilt moves down 2 spots. Iowa doesn't move at all. Like Iowa gets that win, and they don't even move at all. Like it doesn't make any sense. And it's just kind of classic AP poll voter crap out there. Top 25, it is what it is. But I would guess there was a whole lot of voters that were just kind of done with this and just kind of like randomly put in their stuff and probably
Yeah.
didn't even remember where they had teams last time.
They mailed it
Because
in.
it doesn't look like they tried all that hard. Now you know me, I'm a Big Ten guy. I'm going to stump for the Big Ten, when it's applicable to do so. But I don't think that USC should have been above TCU. If you're going to have TCU in there, probably should put TCU above USC, right? Like if we're going to be consistent here.
Well, I might just like USC had both TCU and USC had a lot of people out for that game. So like I can understand. I actually would push that TCU. I think Illinois should be ahead of TCU because Illinois beat a complete SC team, whereas
Oh yeah,
TCU
that's
did not.
fine. Yeah, I think Illinois should be ranked. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like for consistency purposes, if I'm going to sit up here and say that, Iowa should be above Vanderbilt, then I think TCU should probably be above USC. And I get it, Vanderbilt did play their team, USC didn't play all their team, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't like that excuse. I think you gotta, play the game, and if you don't have guys on your team, deal with it. Go out there and win. So it is what it is. I do find it interesting that Michigan is 21st because if you look at last year, Zach, I this is just it. It is the failure of self-awareness by the AP poll, and not all of the voters in the AP poll last year were in the AP poll this year, so I get that. But last year, Michigan finished 8-5. Okay, not a terrible record, not a great record. 8-5. Okay. They had wins over Ohio State and Alabama to end the season. And that matters, right? Those are 2 big brands, 2 big teams. Ohio State was the number 2 team in the nation. When they beat them at Ohio State. They beat Alabama in the bowl game, and they finish unranked in the number, if you go by points, the number 29th spot. So within the top 30, almost there, but not ranked. Michigan this season has 0 wins over any ranked teams. I mean, Michigan had a pretty cupcake schedule this year. They go 9-4 and they're ranked 21st. Michigan last year was better than Michigan this year. It further cements the idea to me that none of the scheduling stuff that we talk about with out of conference scheduling, all that stuff, none of it actually matters because all they're going to do is just look at your wins and losses. And at the end of the day, say, here's where you belong. Unless you're Alabama, in that case, they don't care about your wins and losses, but everybody else they do care about. And then they're just kind of, pick and choose a little bit here and there. And they're not going to honor, who actually beat who or anything like that. It's all crazy.
Yeah. It's a reminder that helmet logo bias is still real. And like I'm reaming out them doing it for the SEC, but it's true in the Big Ten too. Like Michigan, like what separates Michigan from Illinois and like I know Michigan beat Washington, but like what separates Michigan from Illinois? And like I'd argue not much. But Michigan has a bigger brand.
Yeah, I mean, if Illinois didn't lose to Wisconsin, they'd be ranked above them.
Right, but they have the same record. Like they're both 9-4.
Yeah.
Like that's like Michigan, Illinois, Washington, all 9-4. Like Michigan
Right. I'm
obviously
just
has the
saying like
head-to-head to
that.
Washington.
I totally agree with you. I think Illinois is a better team than Michigan. I had them
Yeah.
above them in my power rankings.
Yeah.
But Illinois can't go out there and lose to Wisconsin. Like, I'm sorry. I hate it too. I want Illinois to do well, but you lose to Wisconsin, that's what happens,
Mhm.
So Zach pulled this stat today and put it on Twitter. The SEC has not increased the number of ranked teams from the preseason AP poll to the final AP poll for 7 straight years. In 2019, in the preseason poll, they had 6 teams ranked. They finished with 5s. In 2020, they had 7 teams ranked. They finished with 4. In 2021, they had 5. They finished with 5. In 2022, they had 6. They finished with 6. In 2023, they started with 6. They ended with 6. In 2024, they started with 9. I don't know how you don't win a national championship or anything, and apparently everybody's just better. So you start with 9. They ended with 7. And then in 2025, they set the record for the most teams ranked in a preseason AP poll for a conference with 10, and they finish with 7 this season. I feel like I know your answer to this, Zach, but is the SEC maybe a little bit overrated?
A little? A little?
Yeah.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah.
Listen, Georgia, Texas, and I'm just gonna say this. It's not just that they're overrated, but they're still overrated. Like we just talked about, Vandy's over Iowa. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, what do we do? Texas and Oklahoma are 12th and 13th. Does anyone like if Utah and Oklahoma? I know we make fun of hypotheticals all the time, but like if Utah and Oklahoma lined up today, like what's the line on that game? Like Utah by 7?
Yeah. Probably not 7. Probably by 3. I would say.
Okay. Okay, let's play a game here for a minute. Iowa versus Oklahoma, who are you taking?
Oh, Iowa.
Iowa versus Texas, who are you taking?
Close, but probably Iowa.
Iowa versus Alabama, who are you taking?
Well, I think Texas is better than Alabama, so Iowa.
Iowa versus Texas A&M, who are you taking?
I think Texas is better than Texas A&M, so Iowa.
Iowa versus Georgia, who are you taking?
I'll still take Georgia.
Yeah, that's where but okay, I think, and again, we're playing the hypothetical game, but there is still this mystique with these teams that it's going to take a while for it to die. Like, and I get Texas A&M beat Notre Dame, but in what planet did you see Alabama play their last 3 games and think, yeah, Notre Dame is definitely not as good as Alabama? Like, now I get it. There's a playoff bump. Like, I get there's caveats everywhere. But if we're just saying, okay, if you look at metrics and if you look at efficiency rankings and all these things, I mean, you look at Sagarin. You know where Alabama is at Sagarin right now? 14th.
Outside. Oh, okay.
They're 14th. They are below Iowa. They're below Penn State. They are below Utah. I mean, you look at Texas A&M's 13th. Vanderbilt's 15th.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's 17th. Right? So it's not just like, yes, they ended with less teams, but look at where they're ranked. You know what that's going to do next year? You know how many teams are going to be in everybody's AP top 25 next year? We're going to deal with this for the next 5 years until people finally get it through their thick heads that the SEC is not all that anymore.
Well, and thankfully this isn't the first poll for next year, right? This is the AP poll that ends the year. I do think it's going to impact some people's decision-making process and stuff like that. But I do think that people are going to be smarter with their top 25s next year than just trying to add in all these things. And maybe I have
Some,
false hope there. But
I think some voters really take their job seriously.
yeah.
And I think
Should
some voters, I'll just say this. I think some voters, like some voters, they want to do a good job, but they don't have the time because they just shouldn't be they shouldn't be voters because they don't have the time. And then there's a couple of people who just kind of mail it in, but they're
Yeah.
going to keep like those voters, the ones that don't have time and the ones that just mail it in, they're going to keep doing this and it's going to keep controlling the perception of the sport to a degree.
Let's look at the way too early top 25. This
It's
is mine.
beautiful. It's
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you.
So much better.
So I will just tell you where I'm coming from with this before I read it off for the podcasters. If you're not a podcaster, obviously you can see the graphic here, but this is where I'm coming from. Okay, to me, what matters the most in college football right now is not talent. In fact, I would make the argument that since like the mid 1980s, I don't think that talent has ever mattered less. Now, don't misconstrue my words there. I'm not saying that talent doesn't matter. I'm saying I don't think that talent has ever mattered less since the midway through the 1980s, and that's really where you saw some of the freshman sensation. Players starting to play quarterback because that's when freshmen could start playing in like the 70s. I think it was when they could actually start playing, and so then you actually saw teams go out and try to get more high school talent since they were able to play those players right away and do that kind of stuff. So that's really when talent first started to take off in college football. Don't get me wrong, talent still matters, but with how much talent is being spread across all of college football right now with the transfer portal, with NIL and everything else, I don't think talent is the end all be all that it was, 4 or 5 years ago. I think that talent is great. And if you have talent, that can be awesome for you. But coaching in a lot of cases can beat talent today in college football. And to me, that's there are 4 main factors you have to look at with a team. It's coaching, it's culture, it's development, and it's talent. Because another piece of this with the development is teams can develop throughout the season now. You can lose 2 games and still make your way into the playoffs and get to the national championship. Hello, Miami, right? They developed that team as the year went on. Kudos to Mario Cristobal and those guys to do that. But they developed that team as the year went on, and they turned into their best version of themselves. That's excellent coaching by Mario Cristobal. They had really good culture there. I'm not a big Miami fan. I do not like saying nice things about Miami. If you saw me tweeting last night, you would know that. but I have to give credit where credit is due. But the team that encompasses all of this right now in college football is Indiana. Coaching, culture, development, talent. And to me, that's why Indiana has to be the number 1 team in the nation. I saw somebody going off today on Twitter about how Indiana was losing all these players and losing all this talent and everything else. And my first response was, no, they're not losing all those guys. It's not a given that D'Angelo Pons leaves. Do I think he leaves? Yes, but it's not a given that he leaves. It's not a given that some of the defensive linemen that are juniors leave. It's not a given that Amari Farrell leaves. Like there are a bunch of juniors on this team that they could go to the NFL draft. But one of the reasons why these guys don't focus on the NFL draft as much as they focus on winning college football is because a lot of these guys don't have the traits or maybe the measurables that are going to make them super high draft picks in the NFL draft. So their best football in front of them is most likely going to be college football. And that's why they're focusing on them so much. It's not just that Kirk Cinetti went out and got a bunch of JMU players, right? He went out and got a whole bunch of really good players from really good places. Not really good places, but from good places, and put them together and said, this is a team that has great culture and wants to win. So my 1 through 25, I'll list it off and then we'll get Zach's thoughts. I have Indiana number 1, followed by Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame. I'm slightly regretting Texas over Notre Dame. I think I should have put Notre Dame over Texas.
We'll talk about it.
I may have put Notre Dame over Ohio State too. Anyway, we'll talk about it. Number 6, Miami, Georgia, Texas Tech, Michigan, USC at 10, followed by BYU at 11, Alabama, Louisville, Texas A&M, Washington at number 15, followed by Penn State, LSU, Houston, Iowa, number 20, Oklahoma, followed by number 21, Illinois, SMU, Virginia Tech, Pitt, and Utah rounding it out. Zach, your first impression.
Yeah. So there's a couple people who are accusing you of Big Ten bias in the chat. We are a Big Ten show. We try not to be biased,
and that's fine. If people want to argue with me on it, that's fine. But I do have reasons for each team where I have them.
But I will say this: I don't think it's unfair to rank Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State 1, 2, 3. I don't. If I were I'd started thinking about a list, I just didn't have the time to get it out. I had thought about that. Here's the thing. I'm always going to put the defending national championship at 1 unless there is a significant reason not to, right? So, but if Indiana were not the defending national champions, I'd put Oregon number 1 because I think Oregon's bringing back everybody. They've done a good job in the transfer portal. I just think what they have coming back, I know they got blown out by Indiana, but you look at what they're coming back with and what they did against everybody else on their schedule, they could easily be the number 1 team in the country. So I think the top 2 in my mind has to be Indiana and Oregon in some order.
My only reservation with Oregon, and I there's a lot of people talking about, like in Indiana, Oregon, number 1 and number 2. So I appreciate that. My only reservation with Oregon, though, is they did lose both their coordinators. And so I do want to see what happens there. I put a lot of value on coaching, but at the same time, they brought back a ton of talent. So what does that look like to bring in new coordinators? If it was like really good coordinators elsewhere that they brought in, I'd feel a whole lot more confident in it, but they just hired from within, right? Which is not always a bad thing, but there is kind of a perception there that you hire from within, that you're not always making the best hire. You're just kind of rewarding your staff. And a lot of people feel like you can do that with one side of the ball, but you can't do that with both sides of the ball. But that's what Dan Lanning is doing here by doing both sides of the ball. So we'll see how it works out for him.
Yeah. Talk us through your thought process. You were even kind of walking it back a little bit, but Ohio State 3, Texas 4, Notre Dame 5. I agree with all 5 of your teams in your top 5. I'm not necessarily there on your order. Kind of walk us through 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, so I just think Ohio State has the most dangerous talent coming back. You look at Julian Sand, and I know there was some criticism of him earlier in the chat, and I get that. Julian Sand deserves criticism, especially for how he played against Miami. But he was a redshirt freshman. I think he's just going to continue to get better. He's going to continue to improve, and he was going up in the playoffs against a bunch of transfer quarterbacks that had a whole bunch of experience. Gunnar Stockton, that was his first year starting, but he had a little bit of experience before that. I say going up against, he was in the playoffs with. I don't mean that he played against them. Trinidad Chambliss, he really seen a lot of football, albeit not FBS football, but still seen a lot of football. He's played a lot. Carson Beck, very old, third year starter. That was huge for him. Fernando Mendoza, he's been starting for multiple years. There's just a lot of really good old quarterbacks, and Julian Sand in there. He's going to get older. And so I feel good about that. I feel good about Jeremiah Smith. I think the offensive line for Ohio State next year is going to come back improved. My biggest question mark with Ohio State is the defense, but they also brought in a lot of good transfers, and they're most likely going to have Matt Patricia back. And I think Matt Patricia is top 3, if not top 2, defensive coordinator in all of college football right now. And so you got that with, talent and production coming into the defensive room. I feel like that's something that you have to project highly. But Notre Dame does project very highly as well. CJ Carr coming back. He was a first-year guy. My biggest thing with Notre Dame was they don't have Jeremiah Love. And I didn't love that Notre Dame went out and got guys with more high potential rather than high production. And so that's one of the reasons why I kept them down there at 5. But I completely, in my mind, I'm thinking Notre Dame could kill it, and that high potential could come out and do really well. I would not be surprised at all if Notre Dame wins the national championship next year.
Yeah. I probably would have had it Indiana, Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas, Ohio State. And part of this is my concern with Patricia. And I know Patricia's great, but he had 2 ultimate chess pieces in Arvell Reese and Caleb Downs. and I have significant questions of what that defense is going to look like without those guys.
That's fair.
And so I think that's just I wonder how much of a loss defensively particularly Caleb Downs, because they used him in so many different ways. But I agree with you that like Notre Dame, it really is about potential, right? But like some of the guys they got we as Buckeye fans know they got Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham. I'm like, those two dudes might be the best receivers they've had particularly Quincy Porter, in a long time.
Yeah.
So I just like Notre Dame. I agree. Notre Dame might be my early favorite to win the national championship next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I like Notre Dame. I like what they have coming back. You know, they got their coordinator. I think they have both coordinators back, right? They didn't lose either one.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so that sets up well for them. I saw a lot of people saying that Miami shouldn't be top 10. I don't get that. You know, they've recruited really well on the defensive line and the offensive line. You know, they don't have Bain or Mesidor back, but they've still recruited really well, and they're obviously get some really good coaching on both sides of the ball there. Darian Minsa looks like he's going there, so I'm projecting that he will. If he doesn't, you know, that could obviously impact things here. And like, I know some people are going to hate Michigan in the top 10 at number 9. You know, some people didn't like that they were number 11 on the On3 poll, but like, guys, Kyle Whittingham's a good coach. Like, you know, do I have some concerns? Yeah, I do, but they're not necessarily like concerns you can project. Like they are concerns that we need to see if they happen. You're not projecting that they're going to happen because they haven't happened in his career. It's a different place, and we'll see what happens. But Kyle Whittingham's a good coach. He knows who he is. He knows who his staff is, and he's going to set them up well. And USC, they're right up there too. So USC is going to have, you know, Jada Mayava back. I think that they have some good wide receivers there to work with him. King Miller's back. Wayman Jordan's back in that backfield as well. You know, we'll see what happens with the defense, but I feel confident on the athleticism and stuff for the defense. They just have to put it all together this year, and maybe that looks different with a Gary Patterson-led defense rather than, you know, a younger guy in D'Anton Lynn. So, you know, I can understand if maybe there's a few people saying like maybe Michigan and USC down to like 14, 15 or something like that. But I think they're in a good spot, somewhere between 8 and 15. Those two, I would have them.
Well, and I look at who you have below them, and I'm like, man, like the only team that you have in the 11 through 15 range that I would feel confident suggesting over them is Texas A&M. Because they do bring back a pretty good core.
Yeah.
But like I say that I'm not saying I would do that. I'm saying that they'd be the only team that I would strongly consider.
And even Texas A&M, like they played an incredibly weak schedule.
Yeah.
You know, and so when they actually started seeing real opposition, Miami, you know, who did go to the national championship, Texas, they faltered because it was actual real competition. You know, you played a very inexperienced Notre Dame team, you know, so.
Yeah.
Philip says, JR, how is Lane Kiffin not ranked? He is. He's number 17.
17th.
Yeah, he's 17. The big one I thought I would get flack for is I don't have Ole Miss ranked. That's
somebody did. Someone did mention that, but okay. Tell me about Washington, because you said the other night, and I like agree with you. Like Washington's kind of turning on Damon Williams with what he pulled. Why 15th for Washington?
Yeah, so that's another one where it's kind of like a projection, right? Like this is what I think might be going on. This is what I think might happen, but I don't feel like I can project that players don't like another player, and so they're going to be a worse team. Like, you know, so if somebody asks me like which team in the top 15 do you have that you think might not finish top 25, Washington's probably that one that I would say, because of, you know, some of the turmoil there and everything else. But, you know, they kept Ryan Walters. They have a really good recruiting class coming in. I think that recruiting class is going to help them on defense. I don't think that they're going to be like outright starters, but I do think that they're going to be some good depth and help them on defense there. Washington doesn't have a super experienced wide receiver core, but I think if there's a quarterback in the nation, you could kind of get away with not having the super experienced wide receiver core. It's it's a quarterback like Damon Williams, right? So there are aspects of the team that gives me some concern, but if I'm just looking at the other teams like behind them, like I think right now, I'm not saying they will be by the end of the season, but right now I think they're better than Iowa. I think they're better than Houston. I like them better than LSU. I like them better than Penn State. When I went up the line, I just said, okay, if I look at the coaching and the talent, I think they keep going up until I get to Texas A&M, and I say, I think that's where I have to stop.
Mm.
So
that's fair.
All right. Anything else? Top 15?
No. I'm curious. The other team I'm curious about, and this is particularly Big Ten related. Illinois loses quite a bit.
Uh-huh.
I'm certainly a fan of Burt, but I'm a little surprised to see Illinois in there at 21.
Yeah, so Xavier Scott comes back. Miles Scott comes back as well. Juice Clark is back too. They got a good transfer safety from the FCS and Levon Williams. And I think safety is one of those positions where you could see a guy come in and contribute almost right away. I have question marks about some other positions where that can happen, but safety is one where I do think you can see that. We saw it with Alex McLaughlin last year with Washington, right? I'm not saying Levon Williams is him or anything like that, but I am saying like that's proof that a guy can come in there and play well. Illinois actually got a whole bunch of like much older dudes. Like the transfer portal rankings won't show it, but they got 2 or 3 guys from the JUCO to come in that are really going to help solidify that offensive line. They have a linebacker that they brought in who was very productive in year 1 at Utah State. Zach, he was drafted in the MLB in 2018. 8 years later, he is in his sophomore season in college football. So, I think Illinois has quietly had a pretty good transfer portal, and I think Caden Hauser is going to be good. Do I think he's going to be Luke Altmaier good? No, not necessarily. But I think you have really good, really experienced running backs back there with Illinois. I think the offensive line is actually going to be improved this year with some of the additions they made. I think Jake Renfro is a more experienced center. He's actually older than Kreutz was, which is kind of insane because Kreutz just graduated. But that's the world we live in. You could tell that Illinois really made an effort to go out and get older players, especially in the trenches, and guys with experience. And I think that's going to pay off for them. They got a guy from JUCO who was on a Mormon mission, and he's like 23 and a junior or something like that, like a true junior. So if you look at the transfer portal rankings, yes, it does not look like Illinois did a very good job. But when you start digging in deeper into this stuff, which is the whole reason why we're doing all the transfer portal recaps, just did one with Iowa earlier. You can go watch that one. I just did one tonight with Carson for Illinois. We're going to release that one tomorrow morning. You guys can check that out. But when you really look at like what these teams actually did, it's a whole lot more encouraging for most teams, not all teams, but for most teams than what some of the rankings indicate. And I think Illinois is one of those teams that you're going to see that with.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So
good stuff. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Am I too low on James Franklin? Jimmy. Am I too low on Jimmy?
No, not too low. I mean, the fact that they're ranked is it's a big deal. Like Virginia Tech has not been in anybody's top 25 anywhere for like the past 5 years.
Yeah.
So
they brought in a number of players from Penn State that I think are going to be contributors, and they brought some of those recruits in too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of the ACC, they are the 3rd team in the ACC in your poll, right? Like SMU's 22, Miami 6. Oh no, Louisville. Sorry, they're 4th. Louisville. I missed Louisville.
I think Louisville's going to be good this year, man.
I think so too.
I think they can make the playoffs.
Yeah. So here's maybe a bold early prediction.
Okay.
I'm not saying this is a definite, but this is where I'm leaning.
Okay.
I think a team like Louisville will make it in over Ohio State.
Wow.
Because if you notice the chat, Ohio State plays at USC, They play Oregon at home. They play Michigan at home. They play Illinois at home. They play at Iowa. They play at Indiana. They play at Texas. And we've seen the committee is not going to give them grace for a third loss unless you're Alabama. And I just have a hard time, unless if the offensive line like just completely like levels up. There's a few losses in there.
Yeah, I think if you're Ohio State, you have to beat Texas at the beginning of the season, and you have to hope that Texas remains good.
Yep.
You know, especially at Texas. If you lose that game, it could spell a lot of trouble for Ohio State. You know, we were talking about how Ohio State's schedule was maybe a little bit more difficult than people thought at the beginning of the year, and I still wouldn't say it was an easy schedule. I still think they had a more difficult schedule than a lot of people gave them credit for. But you know, they're definitely is going to be a much harder schedule to deal with this year than last year with all the teams on there. Penn State could be a team that makes the playoffs next year.
Yep. Yeah.
With that easier schedule as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Penn State gets to avoid Ohio State for the first time in a long time.
Yeah. Yep. So, hey, Max says to smash the like button, everybody. Yes, we always forget to ask you to do that. Please do smash that like button. Help us out and help more people hear about the Big Ten Huddle, the show. So Max says, will Purdue win a Big Ten game next year? They got to win at least one, right?
Let me look at their schedule real quick. I mean, we don't know the dates yet. That we don't know when.
I was just going to say, we just got a Big Ten press release today that the Big Ten schedule with all the dates will be released next Tuesday at 5:30. So, Zach, you're going to be here next Tuesday. So, yeah, we will probably be going over that schedule next Tuesday, kind of giving our teams that look like maybe they have a harder schedule, looks like they have an easier schedule, stuff like that.
Yeah. Purdue does have a couple of games that you could see them winning. Like they have Maryland on the schedule. They have Minnesota on the schedule. They have UCLA. I mean,
is it at Minnesota?
No. It's in Indiana. It's at Ross-Ade. They get Washington at Ross-Ade. That's the way Washington has struggled on the road.
That's one. Yeah, they could get.
Yeah. They get Wisconsin. I know Wisconsin looks better, but how many times have we said that Wisconsin looks better over the past several years?
They better be better this year.
Yeah, they better bifickle. Listen, the game, like if Purdue beats Maryland, is Mike Locksley fired on the spot?
Depends on what time of the year.
Okay, if Purdue does what they did to like other teams that have played at Ross-Ade and beats them by like 30,
yes,
is he done?
Yeah. On the field, fired on the field, Herm Edwards style.
By the way, I've backed off my Kirk Ferentz retirement tour, and I'm back very much firmly on the fire Mike Locksley train. It's starting early.
Okay, I was so worried you were going to back off it.
This is all for you, Philip. Mike Locksley, he's gone this season.
Oh boy. All right. Trojan Fight says JR, is USC going to get a DC? What the heck? I mean, I thought it was going to be Patterson. That's what Chris Lowe made it sound like it was going to be, but
did he actually not take the job?
I've not seen an official he's the guy thing. So, wow. I mean, they just hired Mike Eckler today. So,
okay, so that's real.
That one's done. So, but I don't know. I was just reading something today that like Gary Patterson might not actually be the guy, but there's thoughts he could be the guy still. So I don't know. Now they're talking about the Texas Tech defensive coordinator could possibly be the guy.
That would be great.
Yeah. What's his name? Glass Glow or something like that. Glass Cow or something.
But here's my question: would that be a step up, considering the fact that Texas Tech is like got all that oil money?
You mean a step up for him? Oh yeah, it's a step up. It's Big 12 to Big 10.
Well, yeah, but like Texas Tech all of a sudden is pumping tons of money into that program.
I still think the brand of USC, a Big Ten school, you're going to get paid better. You're going to have better opportunities to win national championships. Like, you can be the best team in the Big 12. And I'm not trying to disparage the Big 12 here. Please, I'm not trying to turn into this guy that is like the Big 10 is the new SEC or anything like that. But just trying to look at where college football is right now, I think you are better set up as the fourth or fifth team in the Big 10 than the number one team in the Big 12.
Yeah, I think Texas Tech is positioning themselves to get gobbled up by the SEC at some point. Like,
yeah, maybe.
Because I think that's how you have to survive, is how do you make yourself attractive enough to be gobbled up by one of the mega conferences? Because unfortunately, I think that is where we're going. So, but you can't bank on that. So I think I agree with you, but
yeah. Yep. So, but I'm with you. I think if they get I'm gonna have to look up his name now. It's gonna bother me. Texas Tech, Glasgow. Sorry, I'm gonna say his name. No, Shieldwood.
Shieldwood.
Where did I get Glasgow from? Maybe it wasn't Texas Tech. Maybe he was previously with them. He is. Oh, TCU.
TCU's defensive coordinator. Oh no, we don't want him. We don't. We want the Texas Tech guy. We want Shieldwood. Now that you've planted that in my brain, now that you've planted that in my brain, no defensive coordinator hire is going to be good enough for me.
Yeah.
That's not fair to USC, but
yeah. Last one. Does the Big 12 or the ACC turn into the Pac-12? The ACC will.
Oh yeah, ACC.
They're done in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Philip. They're stuck, but the word is that a conference like the Big Ten or the SEC could come in and help pay the buyout. Like, that was the big thing that happened with the ACC, is they made it so the teams can pay a buyout to get out of the conference now, so they don't have to wait till 2036. It's still so big that teams probably aren't going to be able to pay that on their own. But if a conference wants you enough, then like the conference could help pay you out of the ACC. So, and like, and it just keeps getting lower and lower by year. And so a lot of experts out there think that by 2024, 2030, 2031, that's when you're going to start seeing Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, Miami start leaving the ACC and going to the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see.
Yeah, and Hummus Hero makes a good point. Every season, the buyout decreases.
Exactly. So that's just the projection is like 2030, 2031, 2029. That's when it will get low enough that they'll actually start like buying them out and stuff. So,
yep.
Yeah. All right, man. Good stuff. Good stuff from all the people in the chat. Thanks for being here, everybody. Zach, anything else you want to get to before we get out of here?
Indiana's the national champs.
National champs.
It's insane, man. It's so cool.
Congrats, Indiana. Great win. Great ride. Yeah, really, really cool. So proud of Indiana. Can't wait to see how the offseason goes, but we'll be celebrating this for the Indiana Hoosiers all offseason, because it really is an incredible story. And even if you are a Big Ten fan and you're worried about Indiana in the future going forward, it's still just a really cool thing. And I think it's something that any college football fan can celebrate.
Mm-hmm. So. Absolutely.
All right, everybody. Have a good one. We'll see you next time. See ya.